Guys, China landed on Mars, and we are still hosting the Hungover podcast. What's going on?
God damn, Ivan. It's been a long time coming. China finally made it to Mars. It's really great news. I don't understand what is going on in the world anymore, but I'm happy more people are going to Mars, or more things are going to Mars, because we got to get a lot of junk off this planet. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. When are we going to start sending people there?
The controversial topic will be when China starts sending the Uyghur people there and saying, no, they're just volunteering to promote science for all of the peoples of China.
Yes, of course. But that's not the topic of today's show. We're going to be discussing another interesting topic. I would say we're going to discuss Elon Musk and his recent tweet about Bitcoin and how he will no longer be accepting it as payment for Tesla or Tesla brand products. Very interesting topic, I think. Multiple facets there. He claimed that the mining of cryptocurrency consumes very valuable resources that are also destroying the environment. Fossil fuels, of course. And we'll be getting into that. But Ivan, we start our podcast out every single week by asking each other, what media have you been consuming? And what did you drink last night? Take it away.
Yeah, my man. I had several drinks last night, culminating in a grapefruit gin.
Ooh.
With some lemon, like sparkling lemonade, and a little bit of seltzer, a little bit of lemon in there.
Wow, you've been partying
sweetness,
hard.
Popping it off. And then I proceeded drinking that by eating some Brussels sprouts. And it made the drink awful.
What? Really?
So
I don't know how to take any of that in.
It was just like the Brussels sprout taste was still, the cabbagey taste was still lingering in my mouth, and then it was like grapefruit and lemon, here you go, and I was just like,
yeah, I guess
this is awful.
That is a weird combo, I will admit. Yeah, but sometimes, you squirt a little lemon juice on your Brussels sprouts. It's probably a good thing. It's delicious. Yeah. But
not this combo.
Maybe the other way around is bad. Put a little Brussels sprouts in your lemon drink. Not a good idea.
It didn't heighten the dish, It didn't elevate and give it an element of freshness, I'll tell you that. It definitely drug the thing down. I played Risk against Laura last night.
Well,
yeah, one-on-one me, bro, in Risk.
Well, you guys are really stretching to find some things to do, huh? Damn, I don't know why you would do that. I don't know why you would play. First of all, you should never play Ivan in Risk. Let's put it that way. That should be the baseline, and Laura should definitely know that by now. I don't know what she was thinking. No offense, Laura. I know you're not listening to this, so it doesn't matter. But how did that end?
So true. It ended with the resounding defeat in like turn 5. Or 4.
So 5 hours into the game, she lost.
It was an hour-long game of Risk that I won on turn 5.
Of course you won. Okay. Oh my god.
Yeah. No, it was good, and Laura actually has increased her ability of playing a complex and more strategically demanding board games. So she has actually defeated me in a number of board games.
Oh, board games, not Risk though.
No, this is the first time we've played Risk since high school.
Wow.
Laura popped in to make sure that I was telling all the truth. This is the first time this is the only way that she'll listen to the podcast. This is the first time we played Risk since high school, and it was interesting to see this set of Risk I've had since 2000, I think.
Oh, that's cool. Wow, that is old.
Yeah, still, it's all personalized and all that jazz, and it was fun. Laura was like, "This is just gambling. Everybody talks about risk being this strategic thing. It's just rolling dice." I was like,
Oh my God.
"Yeah, it is rolling dice, but it's also there's like a strategy as to like getting the right probability before you mount an attack, and
It's all about maximizing your probabilities in that game, that's for sure.
it really is. It's not really an accurate war game in any way.
But it's fun. But it's
I
not
had a
fun when
great
you
time,
play
and
Ivan.
Laura, in fact, had a good time too.
Oh, that's good. That's surprising.
Yeah, it was a good time. And then what else have I done this week? I feel like I watched a movie, but I can't remember what it was at this point. So I guess I didn't watch a movie this week. All right, we'll go with that.
Surprising. Actually, you usually watch a lot of movies, so that is surprising.
Yeah. I think I did. I just don't. Oh no, I totally watched a few movies. I watched Thor Ragnarok.
Again, nice.
Yeah.
How was it on
It's
the
been
second
a long
viewing?
time since I watched it all the way through. It's still so funny.
That's
I-
great.
I was just I was just in the mood to watch something dumb and hilarious. So
I think
I
they're
watched
making
Thor
another
Ragnarok.
one.
They
Another
would
Thor.
have to.
Really? Oh, well, yeah, I guess.
It's
Can't just...
A, Chris Hemsworth is the best Avenger, and B, Taika Waititi is a great director for the Marvel universe and actually makes fun movies that are watchable. So, yes.
Right, that aren't just CG nonsense. I mean, it was definitely a lot of CG in that movie, but it was also a lot of good plot and funniness. That was a great movie. We reviewed that movie, of course. Go check that out on the Hungover Podcast Compendium. Now on Spotify. Did you do
Yes.
anything else, Ivan?
And going back to this movie, I was just placing it in the context they were saying, and when the Marvel movies are all self-serious and then their action is all CG fests, it's just like none of this makes any sense. Because like on the one hand you're being super serious, and on the other hand you're putting cartoons fighting against each other essentially. So
It's true.
that's my baseline. That's why I think Thor Ragnarok will stand the test of time as the greatest installment in the MCU.
Yes.
I wanted to put a fourth letter because of the dark universe, cinematic universe, the Dooku. I'm like, there's got to be more here, but I guess it's just the MCU.
What about Count Dooku? You know what I mean? What about that guy?
Did
When's
you
the
watch
last
Star
time you ever
Wars? Is
thought of
that
that guy?
what you...
No.
Oh, I started to watch The Mandalorian again.
Oh, yeah.
Because I never finished it, so I'm still going through season 1.
I thought you were really into that show.
I was, and then I was like, I'm gonna treat each of these episodes real special. We're gonna have a wine and cheese night, just me and her,
man.
like getting into it. And I did that once, and I did that a second time.
Oh, nice.
And then by the third time, I didn't.
You were
happen.
really bloated. It's too much cheese.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, that's
It's all right. We're gonna do
exciting.
some bath bombs and honey next.
Ooh.
That's what we're gonna do.
Oh yeah,
with
you
some
set up the
Mandalorian.
laptop. Do you have that? How do you set up the laptop in that situation?
I have stools.
I know we talked about it, but
I have stools that my dining room table is like you sit on IKEA stools
cool.
or whatever.
yeah.
And so I just bring one of those in, and I have a clawfoot tub, so the stool is only like 4 inches above the rim
Oh, okay.
of the tub, so it's like perfect height.
I feel like you should get one of these things that you can adjust the length of, that goes
That
over
stretches across?
Yeah, across the tub. Then you don't have to turn your head.
Never trust my
No, it's
precious
scary.
computer on that shit.
It is scary, I will admit, but it's also kind of cool. Or maybe you can get one. Is there space on the other side of your tub? You could just get one that just goes all the way down and touches the ground, and that way you don't even have to worry.
There is absolutely not space on the other side of my tub.
All right, I see. Yeah, you don't have your tub just in the middle of your living room. Sorry,
no.
your bathroom.
Next time, guys.
Next time, when you become a billionaire, just like Elon Musk. That would have been a good podcast transition, but I guess I should talk about
that was a sneaky transition to what happened to you, Julien.
I guess I don't know how it transitions to me, but I'll tell you what I've been doing, Ivan. I did have quite a lot of Peroni last night, or last afternoon. My buddy is getting married, so I took this weekend off, not to go to the marriage or the old wedding, but actually to get my suit fitted, because I'm part of the groomsmen. I don't think I've ever gotten a suit fitting. We went to Black Tux. I don't know if this is a popular company amongst the marriage crowd, but they were very nice, very cordial people, very hip, I would say. Definitely like I don't know. It was in close to Chinatown, a little closer to Soho, I suppose, in that sort of neighborhood. And very, I would say pretty affordable, considering how much a suit can end up costing, depending on what you get. We're just getting, like a dark navy suit, but I don't have any of these things, so I'm considering buying the suit outright. I have I guess it would be useful to have a suit, especially one that fits me. You know what I mean? These are things that every person should have, just some sort of formal clothing on the off chance you need to use it. So
I finally bought a suit like 3 years ago. Nice. Up until that point, I only had suit separates.
But you've lost a decent amount of weight in the past year, right?
And I gained half of it back already.
Oh, okay.
Woo!
So then the suit's fine. It still fits. Great. All right. Well, anyways, I don't intend to change my weight too drastically, so I think it's a decent investment. So I'm gonna consider that. But we had a nice day out on the town after this suit fitting. We went to Chinatown, got some dumplings. We were sitting in Little Italy, had some Peroni, got some Big Tray chicken. If you've ever in Chinatown, go to Spicy Village. It's the spot. We love Big Tray chicken. It's like a Sichuan braised chicken. It's quite delicious, actually. They got potatoes in there. You put it on the rice. It's delicious. We got some bok choy. It's great. Then we went to...
I gotta say, Peroni really coming back into my cycle of beers that I'm drinking.
Great.
I've specifically gone out to buy Peroni like 2 or 3 times in the past month and a half.
It's delicious. It's really refreshing in hot weather. It's a lighter beer. Is it a Pilsner? I'm not sure.
You got me there.
It certainly tastes like one, and it's very light. I can totally see it going really well with Italian food, and it's just overall very delicious. Other than that, I got into some video gaming as well. I purchased some retro games. I bought F-Zero X on the Nintendo 64, a game I've never played, but have always totally been really interested in because I love the game F-Zero GX, which is on the GameCube, and F-Zero X is the precursor to that, so I wanted to check that out. Never got to play it as a kid, and it's a fantastic game. What can I say? I think Nintendo should it's goddamn long overdue. Nintendo brings back the F-Zero franchise. It would be pretty cool to put that on Switch, I would have to say. And then I also played a little bit of Returnal. I think that game is really cool. I managed to beat the first boss in the game, and I made it to the second. They call them biomes. I guess I don't really understand why, but there's a lot of different varied places and enemies that you go to in the game. It's a procedural generated game, I suppose, on the PlayStation 5, and I think the underrated thing to me is actually how the only character in the game that talks, as far as I know, is her name is Celine, and she's a scientist, or she's a space explorer. And I think they really capture, or they directed the woman who voices her really well in that, like, and I guess I'm the only one who thinks about this because I'm a scientist, but they really got her lines and delivery really well. It's totally how someone would speak as a scientist. Like, it's very cold and calculated and just straight to the point. and I appreciate that a lot about this game. I think, like, she's coming across a lot of crazy shit. She's slowly losing her mind because she keeps reliving the same. Every time she dies, she relives the same fucking space crash into a planet, and then she just wakes up, and then she's like, all right, I need to understand what's going on, and this is what's happening. And then it's like all sorts of, almost horror elements going on. It's crazy. So it's cool that they sort of directed her to, not sort of freak out about anything, and just sort of take a step back and understand what's going on, and report what's going on as well in a very, I honestly think, cold way, because that's how scientists talk. Mm-hmm. We're all just cold people. But yeah, I played a little bit of that. Very cool. And then I beat Yakuza 3, and then Mass Effect Legendary Edition came out. I have to say, so I started playing that game last night. I played the first Mass Effect. That game, so maybe they changed some things about it in gameplay wise, but it's not as bad as I remember. The original Mass Effect, I remember being very clunky. I mean, the game is still clunky, don't get me wrong, but I remember it being almost a bad game. You know what I mean? But obviously the story is super cool. I spent, I think, an hour just reading about the planets in the game.
Yeah, dude.
I think that's so cool. That stuff to me is the most interesting stuff in the game. I don't really read. A lot of these games nowadays have these really in-depth codex. Mass Effect calls it codex, but these little blurbs about the lore of what's going on in the video game. I never read that shit. I'm never really that interested, but in Mass Effect, I'm super interested in all this stuff because I'm into, space travel, even though it is completely fictional. But they really did make a very engaging sci-fi story here. I think it's a really interesting story, trilogy of games, and I highly recommend, if you haven't played Mass Effect, you go pick that game up. It's probably the definitive way to play these games. You can play all three of them. There's, if you can get it on Xbox or PlayStation, there's a very comprehensive trophy list and achievement list, and I assume on Steam it's the same way, but no one cares about Steam achievements.
No.
But it is cool that it's all connecting, and then you carry your character all the way through, and all the decisions you make are really valuable. But the original Mass Effect is really heavy on the RPG element, which they later kind of abandoned by Mass Effect 3. So I wish that Mass Effect 2 and 3 were a little more like that in the RPG department, as opposed to more action oriented. But I think that the original Mass Effect, like, it still has the enemies still have some AI issues, like they'll just run into walls and things, but it's kind of, I don't know, or they won't be aiming at you, but they're still shooting you. So like there's a lot, I don't know, like I'm used to modern games in that I can tell when I'm going to get shot, but I have no idea when I'm going to go get shot in this game. So it's kind of confusing. So there's a lot of issues that related to that, but the story's still great. The characters are still great. I actually don't remember you meeting so many of the mainline characters like Liara and Rex, Garrus, and Ashley. I mean, Ashley you meet in the first mission, but I don't remember you meeting them all within the first 5 hours of the game. I thought you had to go like 10, 15 hours before you meet some of these characters, but I guess I'm wrong about that. And they're all just like, hey, I guess we're gonna join you on your mission really fast. We don't I hardly even learn their names, and then they're like, oh, we're just gonna fight with you now. It's great. So it's cool.
Yeah, I spent like 100 plus hours playing Mass Effect 1 like 4 years ago, I think.
Oh, okay. So very recently.
Yeah, and I still didn't finish it.
In 15 years, I think.
Yeah. So I definitely felt the clunk of it, and it's one of those games where like you get into it and then you get into a rhythm, and then if you leave it for a few months and then you try to get back into it, you're just like, oh, there's so much learning curve.
It's tough. Yeah.
To relearning an old game. I personally think Mass Effect 2 is the best version of that game, but I started with Mass Effect 2 and then went back and played Mass Effect 1, which I liked. I like the malleability of armaments and things like that.
Yeah.
I think that was the cool part of having to like really weigh one thing against the other, whereas in Mass Effect 2 it felt like there were clear advantages to whatever weapon you were upgrading to next.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like a trade-off, like better against shields versus this, and
which is definitely what's going on in Mass Effect 1 right now. You pick up a lot of weapons in this game. I didn't know that. I mean, I've played this game once back when I was in high school. That was so long ago. And I did beat it, but I only played this game once, so I totally forgot everything about it. I didn't know you picked up so many weapons, and you have to read about, there's 3 or 4 stats for each weapon, and they're all different. It's confusing. So I think it was too complicated in Mass Effect 1, and by the time we get to Mass Effect 3, it's awful. Yes.
It's so dumbed down, it's impossible. I wish there was a more complex medium that they could have struck in Mass Effect 2. But I thought it was the better version of it.
Yeah,
and Mass Effect 3 was I thought Mass Effect 3 was just a big letdown everywhere. And Mass Effect Andromeda was the worst game, one of the worst games ever released.
I can't believe. I don't think did BioWare make that game? I thought it was a separate. Okay, that would probably be why. But they're making a new one.
BioWare supervised it.
I see. That's a good point. Well, they're making another one, so this can get you caught up on Mass Effect lore, I suppose. So that's exciting stuff. Mass Effect is a really... I just wanted to say one of my pet peeves, which is not in this game, when it comes to RPGs, is when you know, in RPGs, any RPG, you get millions of different items and things like that, and different armor and different weapons, and they all have their cool little description or whatever that is that they do. My biggest pet peeve in these types of games, in RPGs, not these types of games, but is when you equip the weapon or the armor and it doesn't change your appearance at all. I fucking hate that. It's my least favorite thing about the... It's just like, that pisses me off more than anything. It's like, why did I go through all this work to get this item and it doesn't make me look cool? So annoying.
I'm supposed to look like a goddamn badass.
I know. Whatever. Hey, Vaughn, you know who is trying to be the most badass billionaire in the world?
Steve Ballmer.
I don't know.
Jeff Bezos? Bill Gates.
Oh, definitely not Bill Gates. Let's talk about...
Carlos Slim.
You know, I'd actually have to tell you, it's none of those people. It's Elon Musk. Today we're going to be discussing Elon Musk and his big old company, Tesla. Recently, Elon Musk tweeted Bitcoin, period. Is this... No, let me read the whole tweet, sorry. He had to tweet a picture.
Let's get into the nitty-gritty.
It's too long to actually tweet. He had to tweet a picture of text. I hate that this is what we have to do on the internet. Tesla has suspended vehicle purchasing using Bitcoin. We are concerned about rapidly increasing use of fossil fuels for Bitcoin mining and transactions, especially coal, which has the worst emissions of any fuel. Cryptocurrency is a good idea on many levels, and we believe it has a promising future, but this cannot come at great cost to the environment. Tesla will not be selling any Bitcoin. They will not be selling any Bitcoin, and we intend to use it for transactions as soon as mining transitions to a more sustainable energy. We are also looking at other cryptocurrencies that use less than 1% of Bitcoin's energy transaction. So that sent the cryptocurrency, Bitcoin specifically, and I think maybe some other cryptocurrencies, into a spiraling downturn. I believe after he tweeted that, within the next hour or so, Bitcoin dropped $10,000. It was at $60,000. Let me bring up the old. Let's go to 1 week.
It lost 10%.
Yeah, it was at. He tweeted that. Yeah, it was. Oh no, that was even further. It was certainly pretty high up, and then there was a huge drop down.
Yeah,
maybe it was
after that. It was the 12th. It was at 56.
Yeah, 56. Sorry.
And a half, and the next day it was at 50.
Right.
And Tesla shares also lost 4% immediately after the announcement, but recovered when trading began on Thursday.
Of course. So this is all interesting news that it definitely highlights the volatility of cryptocurrencies and how they're certainly not regulated at all. But I guess that's the whole point of the cryptocurrencies.
How could they be? That's the whole thing.
That is the whole point, that they're not regulated. But this definitely highlights that you should not be investing unless you are willing to lose it all. So don't invest any money into cryptocurrencies unless you're willing to lose that money. But maybe not in the long run. We'll see how it plays out. What's your initial take on this, Ivan?
I totally agree with the fact that cryptocurrency is one of the dirtiest businesses that has sprung up in the modern era. Like the amount of energy it takes to run crypto farms is massive. I was trying to look up the statistic, but it's really an intense energy draw because these machines are running 24/7 in huge farms. Often they require some amount of cooling from the buildings that they're located in.
Yeah, exactly.
And like an average machine with the highest level of tech that is installed today can make like $7 a day mining Bitcoin.
Right.
So in order to make money on a Bitcoin farm, you have to have a quantity that is massive in order to make up for that.
Exactly.
So the energy draw of these machines is crazy. They're like 1,000-watt machines or something. So with that level of energy draw happening 24/7, it is an environmental issue that's coming up. Not to mention, as a fucking gamer who wants to upgrade his graphics card for the first time since 2017, I'm really pissed off at these guys.
Yeah, they are. It is one of the reasons why you're probably unable to get a nice 3080 Ti GeForce powered graphics card in your new rig. But definitely because you do need you don't need a nice graphics card per se, but you need you need a powerful graphics card to do all the computing power to generate these blockchains. So if
Bitcoin as a network was visualized as an entire infrastructure of a country, it has the total power draw of the 29th country out of a theoretical list of 196 countries or major states.
Right,
like the country of Norway in total has 124 terawatts of draw. Bitcoin has 129 terawatts.
Yeah. Well, hey, obviously Bitcoin cryptocurrency miners are on their way to running our planet into barren wasteland. But I also think that this is not necessarily a tone deaf statement. Elon Musk, obviously a very rich and smart man, but I also think I know Tesla doesn't consume as many fossil fuels as the entirety of cryptocurrency miners, but I think it's almost hypocritical to say that in a way, considering he has a company or Tesla as a company definitely consumes a lot of fossil fuels as well, even though their whole mantra might be to eliminate fossil fuels. Because in order to make cars, you have to use a lot of fossil fuels. It's just, it is what it is. When you purchase a new car, the cost of that, the environmental impact of that car, the majority of the environmental impact of that car was just the manufacturing of it. So whether you buy a gas guzzling giant or a Tesla, so not to mention if you charge your Tesla or when you charge your Tesla, you're still consuming fossil fuels as well. Just because it doesn't emit anything, because it's an electric car, doesn't mean it didn't have an impact on the environment. So
agreed.
I think,
however, it is less. I agree. It is possible that it could be a lessened impact. I don't fully know the structure of where Tesla gets all their parts from, but like going to a Prius, right? People have touted the environmental impacts of Priuses, but due to the manufacturing process of Priuses and where they get batteries and other parts, like by the time that Prius is assembled, its carbon footprint is significantly larger than the majority of standard vehicles. So right. Over its lifetime, it might equal out carbon emissions, but
you'd have
still
to use
starting
the car
from a net deficit of carbon efficiency.
Right. Yeah, so and this is why purchasing a new car is a lot, right? Is particularly bad for the environment. If you purchase a used car, it's less impactful on the environment because you're just, the environment, the carbon impact once you purchase it is just burning of the gas that you eventually use, right? So it's
replacement parts
when you look
and replacement
at
costs. Newer vehicles tend not to have oil leaks or leaks of other sorts. So
that is true.
It depends on like localized. I think cars in general are pretty gross machines.
They're
in
very
terms
inefficient.
of environmental impact. So,
right? No, it's not good.
Engine isn't great. So I think that moving towards electric vehicles. The thing that I'll say, that the signal of making electric vehicles cool, making them popular, is better than not having that as a promoting wing. So now we see how many car manufacturers pushing towards all electric vehicles.
Yeah.
From the all electric Mustang that Ford is just releasing to the Cybertruck to like just regular like the Nissan Leaf. I think pushing towards all electric vehicles is good, and simultaneously needs to be combined with efforts to relieve dependence on coal and other greenhouse gas producers for generating the electricity to power those vehicles.
Yeah, which I will admit, Elon Musk is definitely investing money into. I agree. I totally stand behind him when it comes to his views on the environment and how he does have the potential to actually change it, as opposed to, because this is the weird thing about America, right? Our government is run by big companies essentially, and it usually ends up being in a standstill, like a gridlock with competing parties like the Democrats and the Republicans, obviously, and so it seems like nothing ever gets done. I know local governments pass laws all the time, but it's cool to see. And then this is where companies like Tesla can come in and actually get things done, because like Tesla and SpaceX and Blue Origin are all going to space when our government refuses to do any of that, right? Like, we're not sending, those companies are pushing space exploration to new heights, when our government is not doing anything related to that. Like NASA is just so underfunded that companies like Tesla have to, or SpaceX. Sorry, SpaceX have to come into play and change that game. So I will admit, I do really like some of his ideas when it comes. Obviously, the electric car, it's a great idea if you can reliably make it. If you could make it without emitting anything, then it would be a game changer. Like, you deserve a Nobel Prize for that. But so he is advancing that technology, and it's a huge company that is making a lot of money. So I applaud him for that. And I know he's trying to, what is the battery that he wants to install in like everyone's house that would, he has some sort of big old battery that he wants to put on your wall or something in your garage that will power your house if you hook it up to something.
That sounds great.
I forgot, or maybe it's what he wants his factories to run off of. So I can't remember exactly what it is. I guess I should have did the research before, but he's definitely putting a lot of research into larger batteries that are more efficient, even though battery technology hasn't really advanced. Battery chemistry hasn't changed in centuries. We're still using the same, literally the same reactions. It's so funny. But I mean, that being said, lithium-ion batteries have become much more efficient in terms of space and volume and weight. That sort of technology is where we can push it forward, and a company like Elon Musk's Tesla is going to change that. I guess my concern with him saying something like this is, what is the do you think he definitely knew what he was doing when oh, maybe he doesn't. I don't know anything about Elon Musk. He says weird things all the time. But like he definitely knew what him saying this would do to Bitcoin, right? He has a degree in economics. He has to know what the weight of his tweets and his statements can do, especially in a space like this.
Particularly after when Tesla announced that it would be allowing Bitcoin as a currency to purchase their products, and it started skyrocketing.
Yeah.
He knows the weight of what Tesla and everything is. So I don't think that was a secret to him. But I think one of the like Elon Musk is such a odd figure to begin with.
Yeah.
Often problematic. But I think one of the things that he has stuck with a lot is attempting to highlight the need for combating climate change. So I think that, stopping Tesla accepting Bitcoin while not selling off their Bitcoin, right? Because Tesla could have sold off their reserve of Bitcoin, and then he could have released this that they're not accepting it anymore, and then he could have probably bought back the same amount of Bitcoin for $6,000 less per Bitcoin and made a ton of money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like it's potentially true that that's what he's doing. I don't know. But these are all private transactions, right?
Yes, and that's kind of the point of Bitcoin, is that you can't really follow that. So it's possible that did happen, and that precipitous drop-off had something to do with that, and maybe in the background of machinations that's what happened. But if what his tweet says is true, is that they were keeping their stock of Bitcoin and not doing that, then maybe he didn't do that. Maybe that wasn't the goal, and the goal was just to highlight how Bitcoin, not just the mining, but every transaction draws more power than any other transaction has in the history of humanity.
That's true. If you look at the overall impact, for sure. So it's just an interesting...
Other than the human capital of diamond mining.
Hey. We're not talking about diamonds, the blood diamonds. Oh, man. That was... Boy, that's a thing, huh?
Speaking of getting married.
So I don't know. I just think it's a interesting sort of dilemma we're facing here, and anyone who has invested in Bitcoin can tell you they're probably not very happy right now. Or maybe they are. Maybe it
depends on where they invested.
Sold right before this happened and now they're purchasing again, so you never know, right? Or maybe they sold a couple weeks before and then now they're like, oh, I'm buying back in, baby, let's go. So I just think it's not so cut and dry just to be like a cause and effect, like he clearly said this to drop the price so he could purchase again, and then, or whatever. I think there is certainly some truth behind his tweet here, and he definitely does. I think as much as you would, as the, what is it, the like the stereotypical billionaire or whatever, they're just all evil people. I would have to say that Elon Musk is certainly one of the most interesting billionaires out there. But I think he has maybe a skewed vision of the future, but he does have a vision for the future, and he has the means to achieve it, I would say. It looks like he's moving forward with that. And I agree. I like some of his stances on the environment. I definitely think that he's spending a lot of money to put out products out there that will potentially change the way that we consume energy and produce it potentially. I don't know how much he's looking into the production of energy, but he's certainly reducing the amount that we burn. And so I love that there's a company that does something like that. So
yeah, I think I think Tesla has really done a lot to push the car industry to make electric vehicles. I will agree to that. But at the same time, SpaceX burns a shit ton of carbon. Like, its carbon emissions
so
are
does
massive
his,
because going to space costs a
flamethrower.
lot. Yeah. Um, yeah, so it costs a lot of money to go to space because it's a lot of really big parts and a lot of math and all that jazz, and it requires a lot of material, man-hour, electricity, and other needs in order to get there. And he's
true.
one of the largest proponents of this. Not to mention the Boring Company that made the flamethrower makes tunnels.
Well, yes, these things are all true, Vaughn. Don't get me wrong. But I definitely see the value in going to space and pushing that frontier. Maybe just shooting into a dark tunnel, or dark void, literally. But just trying to do that is an important thing, I think, in terms of the history of science, and also the just pushing forward is a really important thing. If you just take a look at the only time in human history, or recent human history, in which we actually made an effort to go to space and push the limits of humanity and things like that, it spawned a whole generation of scientists and also technology that has really advanced human civilization in ways that you might not even think are related to it. So I encourage people to look up, how technology stems from like the Manhattan Project, for instance. Like, a lot of things spawned off of that, as detrimental as it was to all the places that were dropped, atomic bombs were dropped on. But a lot of great science came out of that. So I think we're living in a different era in which a private company can be the genesis of that, of the sort of scientific inspiration. But I think it's really important that these things be done, even if it is in a crude way, or just like a very get the shit done now way type of situation, in that a company, a rich billionaire is like, we're gonna fucking do it now, okay? If you guys are gonna take forever to do it at the government, then we're just gonna do it, and we're gonna do it our way. So, and that, I guess, I don't know if that inspired Jeff Bezos to do it, or if they came up with the same idea at the same time, but they're both, two huge companies are trying to do the same thing. So I think that can only, I think maybe it can't only, but I think it will definitely spawn a lot of cool things in the future that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So, or certainly within our lifetimes. So I think it's a good thing that they're going to space. I agree with you. Yes, there is a cost to the environment.
I think my only pushback there is, I think there's a big difference between the face of scientific discovery being Elon Musk, who is a vastly controversial figure,
weird guy,
to the office of the President of the United States, where I understand that individual presidents have had a lot of controversies in all of their ways, from relations with the various groups of people in America, like the black community, LGBTQ. All of these have had their moments, but there's something that feels, I don't know, a little bit more officious and pride generating from it being like the office of the president announcing like going to the moon, than Elon Musk with the weed meme, and then he's like, yeah, we're going to the moon.
I guess that is a weird sort of caveat to this whole thing. Elon Musk is a weird guy. And I'm not saying Jeff Bezos isn't a weird guy, but I feel like it's a little more of a professionally run company, Amazon, even though we all know that Amazon is slowly trying to take over or quickly trying to take over the world. But, and I would have to, I definitely agree with the idea that these companies are potentially evil and have their agendas. But
capital is
capitalism,
immoral.
right?
They don't. It's not that they're evil. It's just that they don't care. Their goal is to make more money and to grab more power in order to loosen restrictions so that they can make more money.
It is the old vicious cycle. So it's I guess it's the catch-22. Do you want to see scientific advancement in your lifetime, or do you want to have a company and also have a company take over your life, or do you want to not see these things and let the government slowly do it or never do it, right? It's not like we're enabling. I guess we're technically enabling Amazon in a way.
False dichotomy there.
You don't think you think the government will ever send anyone to space at the rate we're going? I
think the Russian government sends people to space all the time.
It's a different government. I'm not saying I'm not saying that's, and China as well now, but that's because they actually invest in their scientific programs. Because they care about science.
I think that there are other best practices that can emerge or be used.
We are a global society. I shouldn't be so narrow-minded. You're right, Ivan.
I think within the United States, the framework where everything needs to go to private business and that the government can't do anything except for be the biggest jobs program in terms of military spending. I mean, I would rather take half of what we spend, all of the increases that we've made into the military and put them into scientific endeavors that are
social programs
focused.
Or literally anything else. Yeah.
So for me, it's just like the money exists, but it keeps getting put into making missiles and guns instead of making other kinds of scientific
no, I wasn't saying that
goods.
The money didn't exist. I was saying that what you're saying.
Right, but I think it's like the way that it was phrased is like, if it's government funded, it's going to be slow, it's going to not meet the needs.
Then.
And I think that is solely based on the way in which the structures are assembled. I think if anything, we've seen that science can make leaps and bounds with the speed at which they can do things with this vaccine, and a lot of that is done in congruence with like the CDC or other government agencies that oversee health and regulation. And I think if we see the benefits of how government can be introduced into the process and given the correct amount of funding, etc., then that would be the way to progress. Now, Pfizer, Moderna, these places that made the vaccine had a lot of them had a leg. I don't think Pfizer, but many of these companies had aid from the government in order to increase the speed of research and development of the vaccine. Mm-hmm. So that is government boosted science development, and I think that the more money we invest in societal programs and science, then the better it'll be for all peoples. And I think that relying on private business to be the champions of scientific endeavors is kind of gross and will lead to I think that the factionalization and the way that factions have developed within the United States often goes to like the polarization of what government is and what private business is, etc. And like, if we give too much power to private business to manipulate the ideas of people, then there isn't going to ever be a belief that government can provide any use to people. and therefore any scientific research, etc., is going to be kicked to the wayside in favor of private business. And I think that having public patents and things that are supported by government research being that is the way to progress in a future that will maintain equality, as opposed to having like these really few companies making a lot of progress but reaping so much benefit that it's not spread around.
Definitely. That's true. That makes a lot of sense, Ivan. You put it in ways that I can never say. That's really great, Ivan.
That's all right. I started my way through it. Well, Julien.
That's all right. I think we could end it there. Close us
out on this guy. Elon Musk, good or bad?
Elon Musk. Don't know. He's questionable. He certainly has an agenda, but he's doing some good things, but he's also doing really weird things and definitely some bad things. Definitely. I don't know. Then there's, it's...
Turns out it's difficult to judge a person completely. Like,
especially
there's some
one
nuances
like
to
Elon
all
Musk.
people.
Especially when you watch him on SNL. Did you see that?
I did not watch it.
I just saw clips. It's dumb. Anyways, that's what we have to say on the whole Elon Musk controversy. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Please continue the conversation in the comment section below or tweet at us. Hopefully not something so detrimental like Elon Musk just tweeted out. But we're happy to receive all inquiries. Maybe email us your thoughts. We'll catch you guys next week where we discuss something a little more lighthearted, perhaps. We'll see. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Great night. Goodbye.